Well, I've always been working on global environmental issues, whether it's climate change or how ecosystems work or things like deforestation. And one of the common denominators about our climate, our ecosystems, our water, and so on, is they're all impacted by especially agriculture. It turns out more than about any other thing that we do on the planet, agriculture has a big impact. It's the biggest user of land in the world, second to none. It's the biggest user of water in the world by far. It's also one of the biggest contributors to climate change. So if you really want to solve our big environmental problems, you've got to think about agriculture. But agriculture by itself is also so important because it feeds the world, right? So this is what's really been obsessing me for the last few years about how do we solve our agriculture problems, feeding a growing population that's getting wealthier and eating more meat and dairy products, etc., and solve our environmental problems around climate change, water, and ecosystems, and do those at the same time. If we only feed the world while destroying the environment, we'll fail. But if we only protect the environment by not feeding people, we also fail. We have to do both. And that's really what the work I've been doing lately is focusing on. How do you win both the food battle and the environment battle at the same time with complementary tactics? So I was fortunate to work with colleagues all over the world to come up with a 5-point plan to really think about how we solve these amazing agricultural challenges. In a nutshell, these 5 points are: first, really limit deforestation. How do we cut down the extreme devastation of the world's rainforest as we begin to grow our population and need more food? Second is we need to learn how to grow more food in the land we already have, especially in lands that are really underperforming, that don't have the soils or the water they need to grow crops effectively. Third, we really have to think about the efficiency of how we grow our food, how much water it uses, how many chemicals are involved, how much energy is involved, and really explore alternative ways to grow more food with less resources. Fourth, we have to start thinking about the food we actually use already. How do we eat food in our dietary choices, and how much food do we turn into biofuels, for example, are crucial for us to think about the overall picture of food in the world today. Fifth, and finally, is the point of food waste. About a third to about a half of all the food in the world is never consumed because it's lost somewhere in the supply chain. If I'm going to look down the road a little ways, I think one of the big challenges we face is not only doing really great science about the environment, but learning how to turn it into implementation. How do we take knowledge into action? And there have been a lot of different theories about how to do this. One is, well, we'll just tell people more about the science and they'll do the right thing. Or we'll put on a suit and fly to Washington and tell them and they'll do the right thing. Well, how's that worked out so far? I guess I'm thinking we have to get much more actively engaged, not only in telling people what they should do, but figuring out how they even make the decisions in the first place. Like, how do businesses and NGOs and governments really make decisions about the environment or food or natural resources? What motivates them? How can we help them make better decisions that are actually beneficial for them? So this is where thinking like, what's the business case for sustainability for a large corporation? Or what's the moral imperative for sustainability among civic groups and NGOs and maybe groups of faith? What's the political calculus of saving the environment for politicians and national leaders? And until you get in the head of decision makers and understand what motivates them, the science isn't going to do enough good. I think it's so important right now for scientists to be good mentors, because we have to train students today not only to be just good scientists in the laboratory, but to be engaging in society. So we're working really hard at our institute here to create graduate training programs around leadership and getting people to be more effective both inside and outside the laboratory. And that's something I'm really proud of.